Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know this video is a little later than what I wanted to do. I blame my new schedule and my time not being as free as it used to be, but in a good way. I wanted today to show you guys my July TBR that I started. Some of the books I have actually finished reading, and then most of these are ones that I would like to read. It's a big pile this time. I definitely know that I am not going to probably be finishing a lot of these books in July. I like building big TBRs because for me as a reader, my mood changes. So sometimes I'll go in when I build my TBRs for months where I look at a book and I'm like, oh, I want to go finish that one. Or sometimes I like to put ones that I've been meaning to read and I'm really excited about but haven't gotten to yet on the piles as well. So I just kind of build it by mood, build it by kind of what I'm excited for. And if it changes, I'm okay with it changing. Sometimes that happens, especially with one of the books that I'm reading now. So I've got a whole list of books here for you. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and do the two that I just finished, the ones that are completely finished, but they were on my TBR. So the first one that I read for the month of July was The Last of Us American Dreams, and it is by Neil Druckmann, Faith Erin Hicks, and Rachel Rosenberg. So, as many of you know from one of my previous videos, June book haul, this is one of my favorite video games in the world, The Last of Us. It is probably my favorite of all time, the one that I will die with. And I just finished the second game, that was an emotional roller coaster, let me tell you. I know a lot of people technically have a lot of gripes with it, but for me, who's not really that big of a gamer, it was fine for me. I absolutely love the game, everything about it. I actually really enjoyed the story. I actually really enjoyed the characters. Not a lot of people that played it did. I picked this up at the beginning of July, and it's definitely really short. I think I read it like a whole trip to work, which was like 30 minutes because it's super quick. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I found out that the Kindle comic books that I downloaded is every single one that's in this book. So the fact it says number 1 on the side, which, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it says number 1 on the side. They only made one of these, which is really sad for me, but definitely didn't really need it because we had the DLC content with these two characters in it, Ellie and her friend Riley. So we already had that DLC content, so it kind of is them being friends. This is them kind of meeting and realizing like they both can hold their own, and it was really cute. I love it. I love visiting this world. I love being a part of The Last of Us, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I would say it was probably like a 4 out of 5. The only reason I make it that low of a rating, in my opinion, because I love the game so much, is because it didn't really give me any new information that I didn't know already. For example, we already knew that Ellie went to a military-style school before she met Joel. We already knew about Riley. We already knew about that her mom was someone that was very significant with the Fireflies. So it didn't really give us that much new info, but it was still fun to read. I love Ellie. She's one of my favorite video game characters of all time, probably the only video game character that I love so much, besides all, the classics. But I absolutely love this. Definitely if you're a fan of The Last of Us, or you like to collect things from The Last of Us like I do, I would say definitely put it in your collection. It's worth it. I would just not be surprised if you do pick it up and you read it, that it's just kind of the same stuff you already knew. The next one is part of a series, and I had already showed it in the last, or like the second to last video that I put up on the channel, but it is the sequel to Goldfish. It is called Lou Out of Luck by Nat Litsy. If you're not aware of what Goldfish is, it is about a girl named Lou Braun, and she is this big swimmer. An incident happens where she pretty much has to give up the sport of swimming, and it kind of affects her confidence in her as a swimmer. She ends up going to her school's pool one day to kind of do some like breathing practices. She's kind of feeling a little stressed. She loves to swim still, but she doesn't want to do it competitively. And she gets selected by these group of guys to become their coach to complete a synchronized swimming act for a talent show called Britain's Hidden Talent. So it's kind of got all the different antics, and there's a lot of teenage angst in it. So, and I found out after I started reading it that there is actually a sequel to it. So I decided to pick it up. This one is the UK cover. I don't think they have it in the United States at all, because this was the only option I had, and I couldn't find it as an ebook really, so I had to order it. This one was definitely better than the first. If you didn't see my review of the first book, it was not my favorite. There were some parts of it that I enjoyed. There's the way that the author wrote her Lou's family dynamic. That one's kind of a spoiler, so I don't really want to talk about the family dynamic, so if you're interested you can kind of read it or look it up. The way that that was written, plus the fact that the family just really gets along, and you can see that they, in their own weird way, they all care about each other. This one was actually a little bit better. It had a lot more stuff that I kind of was laughing at, but I did think the ending of the book was not what I expected. I don't know, I think for me, this author just might not be for me. I felt like it was more kind of like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, trying to be surrounded by the main topic, which in this book, her family is unemployed, and they're trying to cut ties on what they can spend, and trying to go through this period of time where they might have to move, and they might have to, you know, they're not buying as much things as they used to, so it's a new adjustment for her. That's the main plot point, but there was a lot of other stuff going on, and I just think overall, just this author's not for me. I did give it a 3 out of 5. I would say if you do end up reading the book and you do enjoy that, I would say probably definitely pick this up. A lot of the same characters are in it, as well as you do get some new characters that I actually did really enjoy. There is a character in here, his name is Dermot. He is very not afraid to be himself. He likes to wear a lot of really interesting clothes. For example, he likes to wear a lot of thrift stuff, and it's a lot of like grandpa suits and things like that. So he's this quirky character that she becomes friends with. I really enjoyed his character. He, I think, was one of the saving graces for me in this book, because I liked reading about him and just was like, this is a kid I would love to be friends with. This one I actually have been reading on my Kindle. I finally got Kindle Unlimited because I realized I have done a lot better with spending money on books, but I can always find ways to cut the cost, so I decided to go ahead and get Kindle Unlimited. I'm more of a physical book person, but I also like to read my e-reader books. This one is also a book that I have seen several times with one of my favorite booktubers. Her name is Lovely Like Laura. If you're familiar with her, you know she is a big romance reader. She did YA for a while, but now she's kind of more focused in her adult romances. And the one that she is so obsessed with, that I heard her talk about so many times and I was like, oh, I want to read it, is a novel called Birthday Girl, and it is by Penelope Douglas, and I am currently reading this book right now. Why do I doubt Laura's selections? I always end up kicking myself in the butt when I do. I am in love with this book. I am a little over halfway done with the book. And if you're not familiar with this, it is about a girl who is in this relationship with a boy who kind of is he's kind of trying to be the young boy out of high school, kind of just hanging out with his friends, spending his money. And she's more kind of focused. She wants their relationship to thrive. She wants to have the future with him. An incident happens in her apartment where her and her boyfriend end up moving in with his dad, who he has a very strained relationship with, and it all stems from the fact that her boyfriend's parents were teen parents. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in there, but during the course of her living with his father, there's a relationship that ends up developing where both the dad and her are falling in love with each other. It seems really taboo. You're probably like, oh my god, that is so weird. Like, a guy in his 30s falling in love with a girl that was like his age when he had a kid. Like, that seems really weird, but don't worry, it's over 18. She's 19 in this book. I'm someone that, I agree with Laura, we both love to read books that, even though it may not make sense in the real world, it's fun. You can get lost in it, and I have definitely been getting lost in this book. I have been reading it every second I get. Probably what's gonna happen is, once I'm done doing this video, I'm going to be reading this book until my boyfriend comes to the house. The writing is great. I definitely recommend it if you're a big romance reader. Definitely this one. If you love Penelope Douglas already or you like her writing style, definitely this one. I'm really excited to check out more by her. This book is so good. I'm gonna be so sad when I finish reading it. What I also love about this book is at the beginning there is a birthday girl style playlist, and it's a lot of songs. The name of the character is Jordan. So Jordan loves anything 80s related. She loves 80s movies, 80s music, pretty much anything 80s, she's all about it. So there's a playlist of songs that fit in well with this book. There's a whole bunch of classic 80s songs that I know by a lot of people that I love, as well as there's some recent songs on there that have to do with the fact of what the main premise of the book is about. So definitely really cool. I love this book. I'm so excited I finally get to pick it up, and I have to stop doubting Laura with her recommendations. So definitely excited that I got to this. This was one that wasn't really on my TBR originally, but I picked it up when I watched, she did a most recent video about it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot, and I was so happy it was on Kindle Unlimited. So definitely this one is a good one, especially for the summer. I would say definitely read it for the summer. A lot of you know, as I have been putting in every single video, I am a VIP, very important page turner with Once Upon a Book Club, which is a book subscription box where you get a book and bookish gifts that you open up. There's a post-it note that'll be on a page, and you have to pick up the gift that relates to that page, and it helps you interact with your story a little bit. So if you're interested in that or haven't gotten your box, now is the perfect time, especially with us being at the end of summer. This will give you something to do. If you enter my code MenagGirl10 at checkout, that'll give you a discount on your box, so that'll make it a little cheaper for you, and you can test it out and see if you enjoyed it as much as I do. But the book that we got for the month, this was our June box, but we ended up getting it in July because of shipping discrepancies and issues with COVID going on right now. But the book that they chose for June is called Rebel Spy by Veronica Rossi. If you're familiar with this author, she wrote the Under the Never Sky saga, I believe, and a lot of people I know really love it. A lot of my booktubers I know really loved it. So this book sounds so good. I am not downing any of the books that they do, especially after the first one where I was like, oh, that's cute, I might like it. I absolutely loved it. But this follows a girl who lives a life that it isn't as glamorous as she wants it to be. She lives with an abusive father. One day she decides to go out and she finds the body of a drowned girl. And she sees this as her opportunity to kind of flee from this life that she's been living. So she ends up taking the identity of this drowned girl and going over to England. She ends up, I think it takes place 3 years later after that incident. And you see that she's living the life of this girl that was drowned. She has a wealthy, I believe she's engaged to someone who's part of British society. And she ends up getting involved with the American Revolution, where she becomes a spy for George Washington. So it seems really good. I have not read a lot of historical fiction where it's more YA based. A lot of the historical fiction I read is mostly adult or biographical, but this one I am so excited to read. Veronica Rossi has always been a present name. I've known about her for a while, so I trust her writing style is going to be great. It is Once Upon a Book Club chosen, so I know I'm going to enjoy that, as well as I have a whole bunch of gifts to go with it. So I'm hoping to get to this right after Birthday Girl. Don't know if it's going to change. It might, but I would love to read this, especially since we have some events that are coming up. But yeah, definitely excited to read this. Definitely excited to dive into this. Just look at the cover. Like, look at that cover. It is so pretty. They have the prettiest books, I swear, for these boxes so far. I've only gotten 2, but you know what? That's the pattern I've noticed. The rest of the books that I have are ones that I don't know if I'm going to get to because we're already in the middle of July as I'm filming this. So one of the ones that I have on my list, it is to complete a series that I started reading. As you all know, I love V.C. Andrews. I started reading V.C. Andrews books last year, specifically the Flower is in the Attic series. As you can see, I have that series, as well as the book that I have pertains to this series. I would say it's kind of the prequel series to everything. But there's 3 books in this series. The first book is Beneath the Attic, and the second one is Out of the Attic, which is this one right here. So the third one that I received is Shadows of Foxworth, and this one, it follows the character that is in this series, the original Corinne Foxworth, or Dixon as she is for her maiden name. And those books follow how she gets involved with the Foxworth family, she marries into it, and a lot of stuff goes down where she wants to break free, and she realizes that, yes, she lives in this society where she's wealthy and she doesn't have to worry about a thing, but sometimes that's not the best thing, especially with this family. The Foxworth family, specifically the men in this family, are just terrible. They are terrible beings. I'm not going to say what they do. If you want to, you can look up about these books. They have been popular for a long time now. But this one follows Corinne's daughter, who is, I believe she finds out she's a Foxworth, and her kind of delving into that side, as I believe that Corinne doesn't really tell her much about that. And I'm really excited to read this. I don't know if there's going to be a fourth book. I think this is the final in this little series. This is also written by the ghostwriter, which I know a lot of people have problems with ghostwriters when they try to pick up after an author dies. V.C. Andrews did pass away a long time, and she still has books coming out that are written by her ghostwriter. This series has actually been really great. The writing's been great. The story makes sense. I'm addicted to it, so I'm really excited to read this and see what her daughter gets into with the Foxworths and how it all comes to a head. I'm hoping this will give us some more new information. What I love about the series is we've been getting a lot of information from Corinne as you're reading these books, so we'll see what happens in this one. This one was really fun to get because I originally pre-ordered this, and after about a month of not getting this book, I actually just got refunded for it because it got stuck in the post office and it looks like I was never going to get it, which sucked. So I went up and picked it up at Barnes & Noble anyway because it recently opened back up. The next one I have is by Natasha Preston, which, as you guys know, I am a big fan of Natasha Preston. If you can't see back there, I have all her books that she's written so far. I'm probably missing a couple more, but I'm working on getting those. Her newest book that she just came out with is called The Twin, and from what I can tell from reading the summary, it is about two twin sisters, and one of them kind of is devious, and a lot of stuff goes on where I think she's trying to get rid of the other twin so she can be this, take over her life pretty much. Natasha writes a lot of great suspense, mystery, thriller kind of books. They read so well. She was actually a Wattpad author when she started out, and then her books got published. So this one is one I'm really excited to get. I always look forward to her writing. I would say her books sometimes they really hit for me, but there's a couple that I've read that weren't my favorite, that I weren't crazy about. But I feel like a lot of authors, there's a book that a lot of people that are their fans aren't crazy about, but they still read it. But this one I'm definitely excited for, especially after the last book that she released was called The Lost, and that one was so good. If you're not familiar with that one, I say The Lost is a cross between the movie 31 and Saw. Like, if those two had a baby, this would be the book that would be the book child. So it is so good. I do really, really want to get to this one. So if I don't get to it this month, it's coming up in August, just so you know. And next couple of books I have are more related to me reading more about Black America and stuff that has happened in our recent time frame. So one of these is actually a book that I got with The Book Drop, which is one of my other favorite book subscription boxes. I have been with them for a while now. They sent us a copy of The Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones by Davin McQueen. And this is actually a Wattpad book, which I didn't know. So I'm going to have to probably add this story onto my Wattpad. But this pretty much follows a story about a boy who in the summer of 1955 meets a girl named Juniper Jones, and it has to do all about race and being accepting, and especially about the civil rights movement. So that one seems really fun. I love the premise of the story. It seems like it's going to be really cute. I'm definitely going to be learning a lot. The other one that I have is called The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds. This was also another book that we received in the book subscription box for the book drop, and this one is also another Coretta Scott King. So especially after reading X and realizing why that deserved the award that it won, I'm really excited to read this. Jason Reynolds, I'm familiar with his. I think he has one where it has to do with a boy being in like an elevator. I can't remember if it's about 9/11 or something else, but there was that one that he wrote. Can't think of the title right now. I'll probably put it down here to tell you guys what the book is. I guess it's going to be told from a perspective of the friend of this boy that's in a black suit. So this boy, his name is Matt, and he wears this black suit even in the middle of the hot summer because of his mother passing away. But not only that, he ends up getting a job at a funeral home, and it pays him a lot. So during that, he ends up falling in love with a girl named Lovey, and I guess she's kind of this, it seems like she's more like a rough around the edges free spirit. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see if it's going to be set in a different time. It doesn't really give me that. I would probably say it's going to be set in a different time, probably in the civil rights movement. I could be wrong. But yeah, definitely one that I want to get to, especially since it's got the Coretta Scott King Award. And I think a lot of stuff is going to go down with like race and injustice with this one. This next one that I have is actually a memoir that I received with the book drop as well. I have so many book drop books that I haven't gotten a chance to read. I, for a while, was in a big reading slump where I wasn't reading as much, but I still collect books, and when I do read, I've been reading, and that's why I'm so happy I've been reading a lot more, just because I haven't felt like this before in a long time, where I just want to read and read and read and read. So this one is called How Dare the Sun Rises, and it's by Sandra Uringiyimana. I hope I said that right. That is a mouthful. It has to do more about refugee camps and her kind of moving from Congo all the way to the United States, and her kind of giving voice to her country. So it definitely seems like it's going to be a very inspiring read. I know it sounds really bad that I don't do this, but I don't know a lot about African culture. I have read a few books that were set in Africa, so I know a little bit, but I don't know a lot. And the fact this is nonfiction, it seems like it's going to be an inspirational story. I'm really excited to read it, and I've seen this in the bookstore a lot too, so I don't know if a lot of people have read this one, but I'm definitely excited to get to it. Alright guys, so I have one last thing on my TBR, which I'm probably not going to get to, but it is a series, and there is 4 books. It is the Gabriels Inferno series by Sylvain Renard, and I wanted to read this series, so I was watching YouTube one day, and an ad popped up for this movie that I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm really intrigued, and I found out it was based on a book called Gabriels Inferno. I have seen the first book around, so this is the first book in the series. The cover is very familiar, I've seen it before. So this one, it's a big romance series, and I actually want to watch the movie that's on Passionflix, so that's another reason why I wanted to pick this up, to see if I like the writing and if it is worth watching. Let's just say I really wanted to read 365 DNI, but they don't have it in English, and after watching the movie, I don't really care for it. Sorry everyone that loves that movie, it didn't hit for me. I felt like I was watching more of a porn than anything. So this is about a girl who is in college, and she falls in love with the professor of her, the one class that she teaches. And as far as I know, apparently they are both connected to each other in some way. So I'm very intrigued with that. There is 4 books in the series. The last one, I think, just most recently coming out in January or over the winter. But you have Gabriels Inferno, Gabriel's Rapture, Gabriel's Redemption, and Gabriel's Promise. So I'm really excited to read these, and they look like they're pretty thick books, so they might take me a little bit of time, but I'm always down for a good romance. I do need a new romance series. You know, I read 50 Shades. It's one of my favorites. There's another romance series, and I can't think of it. But I read a lot of other series where I'm just like, once I finish the last book, I'm like, oh, I'm sad. So I'm really excited to read this. I think it's going to be the same thing with the twin. If I don't get to it this month, it's going to be the one that I read for the next month. So there you guys go. There you have it. Those are the books that I have on my July TBR pile. Like I said, lots of books. Don't know if I'm going to get to them. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you later. Bye.